you have to think about the type of lives that these slaves lived, okay? They worked from sun up to sundown, hunched over, picking cotton with their bare hands, no shoes on their feet. They got a whip on their back to make them work harder, faster, stronger. Speaking of Kanye West, right? And basically, do you think at the end of the night, they have the energy to lead a revolt or to run away? What about all the elderly black folk who couldn't run nowhere? What about the mothers who had small children or expecting mothers who were pregnant? What about the kids? Were they supposed to, run away too? And then if they did muster up the courage to face whatever consequences that could have been waiting for them if they were caught, if they did muster up that courage to run away, do you think, do you understand how difficult it would have been, considering that most of these people did not know the surrounding land? They didn't know the surrounding land. They had so many enemies on the outside. Poor white folk and Native Americans, were paid money to capture these slaves and bring them back to the plantations. Many of these other people, slave catchers, they had dogs to help sniff out a slave. They also had horses and rifles to help them to catch runaway slaves. So you have a slave running through the woods and their bare feet, no shoes. They don't know where they're going. They just are running, trying to get somewhere. They don't know if they're going further south or further north. Well, I guess they do if they, they follow the stars or whatever. But for the most part, if you're in a panic, if you're scared, you're not very cognizant of the stars and all of that. You're just trying to get away. Do you think that those slaves were able to outrun hound dogs, bullets, and horses? Seriously. Come on now. So you're telling me that, and it wouldn't have been worth it, by the way, because once they were caught, which they were more likely to be caught than not. So once they were caught, they would have been, strung up and whipped or worse, castrated, or, like in Django, fed to the dogs. There was a lot of things that could happen to a person if they were caught, a slave if they were caught. So most of them didn't risk it. Okay? They didn't risk it. And also, a lot of these slaves stayed complacent in slavery because they knew that, if I'm not, a good slave to this master, he's going to sell me to a worse master who's going to do unbelievably worse things to me than this one. So a lot of them were, mentally enslaved. Now, a lot of Black people online are saying, well, Kanye West is just talking about, mental enslavement. These people were just mentally enslaved, and today we're still mentally enslaved. Now, do I agree that we have a serious slave mentality in the Black community? Sadly, yes. In many ways we do. That is unfortunate. It is unfortunate, the psychological damages of slavery. When we were freed from slavery, we did not have any psychological counseling. We did not have any, any kind of training on how to exist in the world without, living in bondage. We just didn't know. And so we carried some things with us generation through generation. And one of those things in that counts, I believe, as slave mentality is Stockholm syndrome, and this need to be accepted by our oppressors, this need to be loved by our oppressors, and this need to defend our oppressors. And that brings me to a lot of these people who are throwing their lot in with Kanye West and saying he's right about this. A lot of you all don't realize it, but you're repeating white supremacy, right-wing talking points. Like, you're standing shoulder to shoulder with white supremacists. Okay? And white people in general have been trying to minimize slavery. They've been trying to illegitimize its effects and its consequences on our society and to the Black community. They've been trying to do this forever. Like, you know, they'll say things like to deflect, like, oh, well, what about, Black people sold other Black people into slavery, so white people aren't all to blame for it. It's like, it's okay. Yes, Black people did sell other Black people, but what does that have to do with your ancestors coming to Africa to buy Black people? Nobody told y'all to do that. Y'all did that on your own. The Africans didn't say, hey, come here and buy our people. You went there ready to make a deal. Okay, that's what y'all did. So white people don't want to take responsibility for the role that they played in American slavery. They do not want to take responsibility for racism that was created during slavery and continued long after slavery. They don't want to take responsibility for that. So a lot of you Black people who are basically blaming the victims of a brutal institution called slavery, you guys are standing shoulder to shoulder with white supremacists instead of toe to toe with them, which is where you should be. Okay? Let's just keep it all the way real. Y'all have some serious Stockholm syndrome. And don't give me that, oh, you Black people love to be on the Democratic plantation. First and foremost, if you are a Republican or a Black conservative, you are just on another plantation. Both of these parties are white supremacists, okay? Every last president that has been president of the United States has been a racist white supremacist, Obama included, okay? He was just a white supremacist in blackface. Everybody any Black person who puts their trust in either of these parties is living on some type of plantation. Neither one of these parties care anything about Black people, the interests of Black people. They both were started by good old boys. They were both have a racist history and a racist past. And even though the Democrats, try to, be patronizing to Black people and, try to, I don't know, make us believe that they're our friends, they're the furthest thing from being our friend. Okay? So, like, Black people, we really do need to stand on our own. We need to stop defending other Black people who speak a bunch of nonsense. And I'm not saying that we have to all think alike, but we should at least get on the same page when it comes to racism. That's one of the things that we shouldn't even be a question about. Now, we can discuss whether, how to deal with racism, but this idea that racism isn't a problem and it hasn't been a problem in this country is just false. The data does not support it. It does not support it. Let's see, what else? Oh, and let's talk about Kanye West's Black fan base. Oh God, you guys are annoying. You guys are worse than Beyonce's fan base. You're worse than the Beehive. Okay, so like, you guys just defend every single thing that Kanye West says, no matter how crazy it is. You will defend that thing like it's the word of God. Like, I mean, he literally thinks he is God, right? So I hear a lot of Black people saying, oh, well, Kanye West is such a genius, right? And anybody who doesn't understand what he's saying, like, you're just not smart enough to get it. Let me tell you something. Kanye West is a genius only in what he does, which is music. Outside of music, this man is a moron. He is stupid. Okay? He's dumb. Not only that, he doesn't know how to articulate himself very well. His sentences are extremely incoherent, and he rambles and rants like somebody who is on drugs. If I were to give my unprofessional opinion, I would say that he's either bipolar, narcissistic, or on the spectrum. It is one of those, okay? I have long said this, even before this whole Trump thing. I've long said that there's something not right with him. Okay, I remember, like all those rants he used to do during his concerts. He would take out 20-30 minutes to do rants. Every award show where, he was accepting an award or some type of honorary mention or what, he would get up there and ramble and rant about complete nonsense. It made absolutely no sense whatsoever. You remember that time of the MTV MTV Music Awards? He was accepting some type of award. I forget what it was, but I had to turn him off because he ranted for about 13 minutes about nothing. And that's the time when he first announced that he was going to run for president. Oh God, help us. Yeah, I mean, everything he says is so half-baked, and most of his fans, what they end up doing is they end up filling in his incoherent statements with their own beliefs and ideologies and what they think he said, and they kind of fill it in and say, oh, you guys, you just don't know. This is what he's trying to say. There are some real geniuses out there who are very profound in their thinking. Kanye West, I don't consider him one of them. Noam Chomsky is a genius. Lawrence Krauss is a genius. Richard Dawkins, Neil deGrasse Tyson, even genius. I don't. Kanye West he's just a narcissist who's full of himself, who thinks he's a deep thinker, but he's not. And by the way, let's talk about, he's not really a free thinker. He's just regurgitating right-wing talking points. That's not being a free thinker. Being a free thinker, means that you're thinking outside of the realm of what's in the Overton window, what's currently being talked about. You're dropping some new knowledge. He ain't dropping no new knowledge. He's just saying the same thing that a lot of these white right-wing conservatives have been saying, and a lot of these Black conservatives have been repeating. Okay, he's just saying the same thing. He's not outside of any box. There's plenty of people who feel the way he does. So he's not, I wouldn't call that free thought. What else? Oh, a lot of people are saying that Kanye West is living in the sunken place. And I'd have to agree. Kanye West, I believe that he's been in that place since his mom died. His mother died, and I don't think he's been right since. He's just, okay, so I'm going to clear this up. Kanye West has always been arrogant, okay? He's always been outspoken, okay? He's always been that. And he's always had this need to be this great provocateur, this, person who just says, a contrarian, someone who just says the unpopular thing. He's always been that. However, when I say a sunken place, I guess Steve Harvey said it best when he said Kim Kardashian doesn't know anything. Kim Kardashian is an empty vessel, and so is everyone else in her family. They're empty. They have no deep thought. They don't know anything about anything. And I do believe that Kanye West needs intellectual stimulation. He's that type of person. Most artists are. They need an intellectually stimulating conversation. They need a person who's interesting in ways other than their looks. And he's not being intellectually stimulated in this relationship, in this family, and in this lifestyle. I'm just going to say it. Now, he's a grown man. I hold him 100% accountable for the things that he's saying. I hold him accountable for his actions. I'm not blaming Kim for that, and I'm not saying Kim is evil or whatever. I'm only saying that Kanye West is so far removed from the experience of Black people. He's so far removed from the realities of everyday Black people. He just is. He's in a completely different tax bracket. He's in a completely different zip code, and he's in a completely different type of surroundings. He's surrounded by white people for the majority of the time. That's the life that he chose, but it has caused him to not be connected, or I would say have the authority to speak on the issues of Black people. And to Kanye's point, when Van came at him and said his piece, Van from TMZ said his piece, Kanye West returned by saying, what about Black on Black crime? What about those kids dying in Chicago? Obama ain't do nothing for the kids. Now, again, I told you I'm no fan of Obama. However, I do remember a conversation or article, I should say. I can't remember where I read it, but I read it a few years ago. And I think it was maybe Obama's farewell dinner or whatever. Or I don't think it was. I think it was way before that. But Kanye West, Obama, Leonardo DiCaprio, and a few other celebrities were sitting at the same table. And from the insider that was in that dinner, they said that Kanye West did nothing but rant Obama's ear off about fashion and his fashion label, and how his fashion label was going to save the world. His Yeezus, whatever, was going to change the world. That's what he was talking to the president of the United States about, was fashion. And everybody at the table was at awe at how insignificant and trivial it all was. And I say that to say this. Kanye West wasn't giving a rat's behind about Chicago. He wasn't talking about Black youth in Chicago or Black crime in Chicago, Black on Black crime. He wasn't talking about that. So him bringing that up in the TMZ he has some nerve, okay? He has some nerve. He doesn't donate to these organizations that are actually trying to address these things. He has some nerve. Saying Barack Obama didn't do anything for the kids. What have you done? You have influence. You have power. You have money. How did you use your influence to coordinate with Obama to say, what are we going to do about Chicago? What are we going to do about Black kids killing each other? And that's another thing I like to talk about. Black on Black crime is not a thing. It's just called crime. Did we call that recent shooting in Florida, did we call that white on white crime? Did we call that, guy in Las Vegas who shot up all those people at the country music? Did we call that white on white crime? No. We don't call it white on white crime. We call it crime. People tend to kill people within their own ethnic group. That is just how it is, because that's who we're most around. And it's not that doesn't take away from the fact that Black lives are still under assault. Black people who are not gang affiliated are still being assaulted by white or Black police officers and getting away with it. They're killing Black people with impunity. When a gang member or another Black person kills another Black person, they're going to prison. We need to still talk about the police brutality and murdering of Black people, and the people, they're getting off scot-free for it. Okay? That still needs to be talked about, and you can't use Black on Black crime to deflect from that. Anyways, this video has gone on long enough. Since this is my first video, you can feel free to share it. Please do like it, subscribe. I am going to be getting on here and talking about other issues involving politics and current events. So, yeah, like, comment, subscribe, be a part of the conversation, and thanks for watching. Bye.